Neuroscience News Reading. Neuroscience News Reading.
You're listening to Neuroscience News Reading, presented by Hakeem-Ali-Bocas-Alexander on the Wisdom app for World Reading Club in association with UniquilibriuM. Today's reading focus is from neurosciencenews.com and is titled Cognitive Health May Benefit from Balanced Meal Timing, published in Featured and Neuroscience on September 18th, 2022. Summary. May very most to old age, while maintaining a temporal distribution of energy intake during a day helps maintain cognitive health. Source: Higher Education Press. Globally, there are approximately 55 million people who suffer from dementia, and the incidence of the disease has steadily increased. The number of the population is expected to triple by 2050, particularly in low and middle income countries. Dementia affects not only the quality of life of individuals, but also adds significant economic burdens to families and society. Epidemiological studies have shown a correlation between the temporal distribution of energy intake a day, TPEI, and the risk of various chronic diseases such as diabetes and hypertension. However, evidence regarding the relationship between TPEI, temporal distribution of energy intake, and cognitive function at the population level is relatively lacking. Evidence regarding the relationship between TPEI and cognitive function at the population level is relatively lacking. Previous studies in animal models have shown that the disruption in meal timing can cause alterations in clock rhythms in the hippocampus, thereby affecting cognitive function. According to a short-term intervention trial of 96 young adults, dividing equal amounts of food into 4 meals between 9 and 3 p.m. could improve cognitive function compared to eating twice between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. However, long-term study is lacking about the TPEIs and cognitive function. Recently, Drs. Changzheng Yuan and Dongmei Yu at Zhejiang University published a paper in Life Metabolism entitled Temporal Patterns of Energy Intake and Cognitive Function and Its Decline, a community-based cohort study in China. Based on the China Nutrition Health Survey, CHNS, public database, a total of 3,342 participants were included in this study, who were middle-aged and older adults, mean age 62 years, from 9 provinces in China with a baseline age of greater than or equal to 55 years. The researchers used 1. A data-driven K-means algorithm to identify 6 patterns of TPEI, including evenly distributed pattern, breakfast dominant pattern, lunch dominant pattern, dinner dominant pattern, snack rich pattern, and breakfast skipping pattern. 2. Cognitive function was assessed using the modified telephone interview for cognitive status, TICS-M, comprising immediate and delayed word recalls, 20 points, backward counting, 2 points, and serial 7 subtraction test, 5 points. The total global cognitive score ranged from 0 to 27, with a higher score representing a better cognitive function. 3. According to the correlation of TPEIs. Remember, TPEIs stand for temporal distribution of energy intake. Temporal distribution of energy intake. 3, the correlation of temporal distribution of energy intakes to cognitive function over 10 years was assessed using linear mixed models, LMMs, which was adjusted for age, gender, residence, total energy, physical activity, smoking status, alcohol consumption, household income, education level, and body mass index. The results showed that compared with those with evenly distributed pattern, the long-term cognitive function scores were significantly lower in those who had unbalanced TPEIs, especially those with breakfast skipping pattern. Thus, maintaining balanced temporal distribution of energy intakes has potentially positive effects on cognitive health, whereas skipping breakfast may significantly increase the risk of cognitive decline in middle-aged and older adults. In conclusion, this study highlights the importance of optimal temporal distribution of energy intakes in cognitive function. About this diet and cognition research news. Author, Shu Qinhe. Source, Higher Education Press. Contact, Shu Qinhe, Higher Education Press. Image, the image is in the public domain if you're reading this article on neurosciencenews.com. Original research has open access. Temporal patterns of energy intake and cognitive function and its decline. A community-based cohort study in China by Changjung Yuan and others. Life Metabolism. You're listening to Neuroscience News Reading, presented by Hakeem-Ali-Bocas-Alexander on the Wisdom app in association with UniquilibriuM for World Reading Club. Neuroscience News continues with an abstract from Temporal Patterns of Energy Intake and Cognitive Function and Its Decline, a community-based cohort study in China. Worldwide, around 55 million had prevalent dementia in 2019, which is expected to triple by 2050, especially in low and middle-income countries lacking timely diagnoses and limited effective treatment of dementia make identifying risk factors crucial for its early prevention, among which dietary factors have received increasing attention. NeuroscienceNews.com asks you to join our newsletter. Sign up to receive our recent neuroscience headlines and summaries sent to your email once a day, totally free. We hate spam and only use your email to contact you about newsletters. You can cancel your subscription anytime. Neuroscience News posts science research news from labs, universities, hospitals, and news departments around the world. Science articles can cover neuroscience, psychology, AI, robotics, neurology, brain cancer, mental health, machine learning, autism, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, brain research, depression, and other topics related to cognitive sciences. You've been listening to Neuroscience News Reader, presented by Hakeem-Ali-Bocas-Alexander on the Wisdom app for World Reading Club in association with UniquilibriuM. Cognitive health may benefit from balanced meal timing. All right. Now, is that a surprise that food in some way affects your cognitive function? I mean, there's even Snickers has commercials that show people get grumpy when they're hungry, right? So they feed you Snickers, if that's your kind of thing. So cognitive health and food, I mean, not much of a surprise there, but thankfully research is continuing to be done on the relationship of food in the body and cognitive health and things like that. There's so many things related to cognitive health and food related. I mean, one thing is that When the stem cells differentiate into becoming the brain, they lay out a whole track all the way from the gut lining, all the way through the vagus nerve and the digestive tract, all the way up to the brain. So the brain and the stomach and the whole digestive tract and everything down from passing along to the vagus nerve up there, that's all made from the same stuff. They're all differentiated from the same cells. And there's so many nerves in the heart. I believe not too long ago in neuroscience research, I came across some information about there being more than or almost as many neurons in the heart or heart area than there are in the brain. Just as many or more than there are in the brain. I'm not exactly sure about that, but I mean, there's so many things that as a clinical hypnotist, I've treated because of hypoglycemia or low blood sugar. There's so many things that, and when I say treated as clients, I'm not a licensed mental health practitioner. I'm a lay hypnotist with a degree in clinical hypnotherapy from Hypnosis Motivation Institute, and we deal with our scope of practice is vocational and avocational motivation and self-improvement. And so, for example, a person developed a phobia of an agoraphobia, eventually it turned out to, but first started getting severe. They started having a fear of driving, or an irrational fear of driving on the highway, which is a phobia. Anyway, the hypnotherapy didn't work, but there was something else we could do for physical control of the mind, and it was the hypoglycemic diet. So another hypnoathletics or physio meditation workaround that I learned from the Hypnosis Motivation Institute. And so, of course, we know that cognitive health may benefit from balanced meal timing. What they're talking about is keeping your body evenly balanced throughout the day, not letting it get too high, not letting it get too low, by pacing out your meals evenly throughout the day. They call it a temporal distribution of energy intake a day, or TPEI. So there's a correlation between that and the risk of various chronic diseases such as diabetes and hypertension. The point of this whole thing is saying that regarding that relationship, and how it functions at the population level, that the relationship and research about it is relatively lacking. So this article coming out of China is hoping to put this kind of research more on the map, nutrition sciences, and rightly so. So many diseases, so many illnesses can be alleviated and treated by the altering or the varying the concentrations of substances normally occurring in the body. This is the basis and the foundation of orthomolecular psychiatry as laid out in a paper by Linus Pauling in 1968 called Orthomolecular Psychiatry, where he said in the title, Orthomolecular Psychiatry, varying the concentrations of substances normally occurring in the body may control mental disease. Linus Pauling won 2 unshared Nobel Prizes, the only person to ever do so. Maybe that's out of luck. But one of them was the Nobel Peace Prize. He's a chemist, a PhD chemist, who's written various books about on chemistry and the health and its relation to the human body, chemistry that is. And he has many awards and accolades. His work was lobbying against the governments of the world for doing nuclear testing because of the fallout. Remember, he's a chemist. Linus Pauling also won the Nobel Prize for chemistry and physiology and medicine because he discovered the chemical process that causes sickle cell anemia. He discovered the process that causes the corpuscles to get twisted into the sickle cell shape, therefore pioneering some of the research, or at least putting it on the stage for research to be had in the future. Of course, that research is done mostly on people of color, so it's not going to get done as quickly, even though Linus Pauling published his work way back in the 60s and 70s. I didn't mean to get political there, it just popped out of my robotic mind. This was a Neuroscience News reading. I'm Hakeem-Ali-Bocas-Alexander. Catch you on the next wave. Stay well.